How you doing again? It's Joe Stonner Boxing here. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a great Christmas with your kids, with your family, your parents, whatever you did. I hope you had a great time. I spent my Christmas with my mum. I'm doing the dutiful son routine. My old mum's in her 80s. My sister was there. My brother-in-law was there. We had a really lovely meal. Stuffed our faces full of, the usual. And then when we thought we couldn't eat any more, we devoured the pudding and, a couple of tins of Quality Street, and then sat on the sofa and the chairs like a load of beach whales watching Paddington, whatever the fuck it was. Cute little fucker, that Paddington. Yeah, so, it was just the usual family thing. I hope you had a great time anyway. And, yeah, here's to 2022. But talking of which, I was talking to a few friends over the Christmas period about the proposed or the supposed lockdown of boxing in 2022 in January. The shelving of the month, if you like, for boxing. And I think this is something that needs talking about, because Frank Warren has said he won't put any shows on in January. It's too risky. The government might pass down some of their sort of random ad hoc edicts and say, you can't do this, you can do this, and then everything gets messed up. Eddie Hearn he talked a lot in a recent IFL TV interview, I think 2 days ago, so Christmas Eve or something like that, about February's shows, but he didn't close the door on January, but he said some shows are being held, or some sporting events are being held. Then on the flip side of that is that in Wales you've got, I think all sporting events are not happening in January. So there's this, as usual, as has happened over the last 2 years, there's complete mixed messages, complete contradictions going on. So I went to the British Boxing Board of Control's website and I couldn't find anything referring to January 2022. So this is not an edict that's come down from the Boxing Board of Control. The last document they have regarding COVID is an outline of their rules for shows. I think that document was dated September 2021. So this seems to be a sort of laissez-faire sort of half rule that's come in. I don't really know where it's come from. Some promoters are not risking it and some might. But it did beg the question. Me and these guys talked about this. Me and the guys I was talking to, we chatted about this. And it begged the question, number one, is a shelving of boxing in January 2022 necessary? Is it justified? Question number two, will this go beyond January 2022 into February, March and so on? And I think the answer to the first question is no, it's not necessary. And the answer to the second question is, although I don't know, I suspect it probably will go beyond January. And that shows will be cancelled or the government will do something, or, no. Now, I can't really say those things and give you those opinions without explaining why I have those opinions. Otherwise, it's a pointless video. And I'm aware that this is not a video, this is not a channel for social issues necessarily, political issues, although I do touch on things because I think they're relevant. I think certain things that go on in boxing reflect certain things that are going on in wider society. So I'm going to give you my opinion on the whole COVID thing, and explain why I arrive at those conclusions. If you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. But this is why I think a shelving of boxing in 2022 in January or beyond is not necessary at all. So, as you may have seen previous videos, I've mentioned this before, I work in the care industry. I'm not a doctor or a nurse, but I do work in the care industry. I work alongside doctors and nurses and other professionals. I work with a lot of people who've got a lot of issues, a lot of people who are vulnerable. Some of them are street homeless. Some of them are physically very vulnerable anyway. They would be prime candidates for a coronavirus statistical death. They're very vulnerable people. So coronavirus, I've seen it firsthand that coronavirus is real and it's a killer. However, it's a killer for people who are vulnerable. It's a killer for people who have pre-existing conditions. In very rare cases, it can affect perfectly healthy people and kill them. In very rare cases. I know many people who are perfectly healthy who have had coronavirus, and only one of them had any real, she was in bed for a week. And this is a young lady in 25, 26 years. She was in bed for a week. She was incredibly weak, but she got better. It's like very, very heavy flu, maybe a few pneumonia symptoms. But she's the only one. All the others, it wasn't that big a deal. So coronavirus exists and it is a killer. But we're now 2 years into this whole pandemic. And of the information gathered over those 2 years, coronavirus death rates are 1.52%. Very precise percentage that. That comes off the last document I saw. Whereas something like pneumonia is 5%. Or, I didn't see any figures for flu, actually, for influenza. Any death figures, but they're higher than 1.52%. So you could argue, well, yeah, coronavirus can be serious, but the reaction to it over the last 2 years, maybe not at the start when they were sussing it out and collating information, but certainly now, as we head towards 2022, when you consider the death rate, the risk of infection, perhaps, and in my opinion this is true, the reaction to it is very disproportionate and very panicked and hysterical. Now, I am not someone who is a conspiracy theorist. If you are someone who believes all that Piers Corbyn, David Icke bullshit, then you can switch off now, because me and you ain't got a lot to talk about. I don't talk to flat earthers any more than I talk to people who think, the moon landings were faked, or the fucking 9/11 was an inside job and plotted by the George Bush administration, or, coronavirus is real. It's a potential killer. And the people one group of people that really do piss me off are long-term vaccine or anti-vaxxers. They have blood in their hands because smallpox, measles, and other things, other health issues like tuberculosis are making a comeback, largely because of the absolute avalanche of bullshit that has come from the anti-vaccine lobby. Let's call it a lobby. They're fractured, aren't they? They're basically people who've gone to the University of YouTube and they feel that they know more, are better qualified to talk about these things than people who've devoted their whole lives, never mind the whole careers, but the whole lives, to saving people's lives. And these fuckers have blood on their hands, these anti-vaxxers. Now, I'm not talking about the coronavirus vaccines. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about long-term anti-vaxxers. And, the ones who think that, Bill Gates is trying to cull various nations and fucking hell. I find it impossible to be polite to these people. So if you are one of those people, switch this video off now, hit the dislike button and fuck off, right? Unsubscribe, because I'm not interested in talking to you. Okay, I've seen firsthand the damage that these fuckers do. Having said that, the coronavirus vaccine, the jury is still out. If you look at the people who do devote their entire lives and careers to studying this sort of stuff, there is debate going on, back and forth. So yes, I perfectly understand why someone would say, I'm not sure about this vaccine, don't think I'll take it yet. I think I'll wait a few years to see what goes on. It's been hurried through, and the manner in which it's produced is different, and the criteria for it being tested may have been different. And they're asking questions which are legitimate questions, because one should always be sceptical, not cynical. One shouldn't be paranoid to the point where you're joining dots to create an image or to create a narrative that suits your rather pathological or paranoid state of mind. But at the same time, you should be sceptical. So I understand those arguments, and the vaccine debate is still out. I've had the vaccine. I've had 2 jabs, and I'm going to get my booster. But there's no doubt that there is some dissent, and and also there is the issue of body sovereignty. You shouldn't be forced to have a vaccine that you don't want to have. No one should be forced to do that. That 100% I'm opposed to that. So, the conspiracy theorist lot, they should stick to their X-Files box sets and leave thinking to those of us that can do it. But if you're skeptical and you have an opinion that means I would rather not take the vaccine, I find that to be perfectly acceptable. Okay. So why am I mentioning all this? I mentioned all this because I don't believe that people should be forced to, or forced out of boxing shows because they haven't been vaccinated, or they should not be allowed to participate in something because they've said, no, I don't want the vaccine. I think the whole thing is hysterical. I think it's disproportionate. And I don't see why, when you consider the death rate and when you consider the effects on most or the vast majority of people who've actually got COVID-19, I don't see why you should close down sporting events or anything else in society, to be honest with you. It wouldn't surprise me if we're heading for another lockdown. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But no, I don't see any reason why that should be the case. I'm opposed to the overreaction. I'm opposed to the disproportionate reaction to the whole pandemic. And yeah, I just don't feel that there's a need for it. There's a need for any kind of lockdown or any kind of restriction of movement. I think we should do what we should do, what we always should have done before COVID-19, and that's respect other people's personal space, not sneeze on people, not go licking door handles, not go sticking our tongues down random people's throats. I think if we do all that and we're adult about it and we're responsible, I think that's enough. So this video ain't really been about boxing. It sort of has, but hasn't. But I don't know what your opinions are. What do you think? You think it really goes beyond boxing, doesn't it, to the whole of society? But let me know what you think about the whole idea of boxing being shelved, or maybe it's going to go behind doors again and we're going to have, go back to that routine, the whole fight camp model. Or I don't know. 2 years in, I think it's about time we moved on. Give people the information, the accurate information, and then it's their responsibility as individual citizens to decipher and decide to make logical, rational, reasonable decisions about their own welfare, their own health. I think that's the way to go. Just my opinion. You may have a contrary one. That's absolutely fine with me. Leave your comments below. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. If you're new, you could subscribe. Fantastic. Want to build the channel up a bit, but yeah, give me your thoughts below. And yeah, Happy New Year. If I don't see you before New Year, have a good one. Don't get too pissed. But take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.